Welcome to Save Point Sass, where every checkpoint comes with hot takes, chaotic tangents, and a little bit of shade.
Two queer gamers, wildly different play styles. Breaking down what we're playing, what's going on in gaming culture, and what deserves a health potion or a rage quit.
This is Save Point Sass. Load in, level up, and stay petty.
All right, welcome back to Save Point Sass. This is Dee.
This is Shawn.
So recently we had the pleasure of
going to the Nintendo store in San Francisco.
Yes.
Super exciting.
Super exciting. One, San Francisco was so nice to us. We had great weather.
We got a little lucky.
We got lucky.
Because it's the winter season, and still it felt very sunny and luscious and
warm.
And funny enough, just the week after we left, all this stuff happened, so I think we did get a little bit lucky on that end.
Yeah, they had some power outages, et cetera, over there, and even a small earthquake, I think. And, we missed all of that because we weren't there.
Yeah, but what we didn't miss was the store, which we spent quite a bit of time in voluntarily.
Yes, multiple days.
Yes. That's just how captivating it was, right?
Yep.
So tell me, this. Honestly, I think we both came into the experience not really knowing what to expect from the store. We knew that there was, that was, the second one in the U.S. We knew that there was, this type of, product buying retail environment, right? But I think both of us were shocked with what we actually did see.
Well, actually, I didn't know that there was a retail portion to the store.
Okay.
So I just thought it was an experience. Actually, in my mind, I kind of thought of it like if you remember Disney Quest.
Vaguely.
Disney Quest was a chain of Disney stores that were really experience based. So they had VR rides in there and a lot of merchandise to buy and photo setups. So that's kind of what I thought it was going to be like. I didn't think there would be a retail component at all. So I was actually really surprised about that.
So then both of our lenses going into it were kind of opposite, but then they both ended up being partly correct and partly we found something new when we actually went to the store.
Yep. So I think when we first went to the store, it was nighttime.
Yeah, we went on a kind of maybe a lull period, right? So we basically had the store all to ourselves. It was close to closing.
It was all to ourselves, but it actually was still busy for it being an hour to closing.
Right, that's fair, right? But I think my first immediate thought was how friendly all the staff was.
Yep.
They immediately greeted us. They talked to us. They made us feel special. They kind of asked for what was our experience. They kind of made it a whole, not just a store, right? It was an interactive area.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like they were trying to gauge what you wanted. And then based off of what you said to them, they were going to try to kind of curate your experience through the store, right, which was interesting.
Oh, yeah, it definitely reminded me of this kind of Disney World-esque experience like you mentioned, where the cast members they have their roles, right? But half of their role is actually to help create this experience, right? This guest experience and elevate it.
Yep. So that first night, we probably spent maybe 30 minutes in the store.
Yeah, that was just kind of us getting the lay of the land, seeing what's there. But we knew that we'd want to go a little bit more to really get to experience the store.
Yep. So I actually think I went twice on my own because you were busy having fun.
Yeah.
And I was surprised how busy the store was.
Right.
The couple of times where I went by myself, it was absolutely packed. It was insane. And I thought, because we were there during the week, it would be less packed. We knew that we were kind of going to go on the weekend purposefully.
Right. They had this, it's the holiday season, right? So they had this little ornament giveaway. If you spent a certain amount, you would get this exclusive ornament to this Nintendo store. So we definitely were excited to go. It started, I think, on the Saturday, right before we were about to leave San Francisco. So we did have that opportunity to go on one of our last few days in the city.
Yep. So we got there and, we were debating whether we should go earlier or not. And we kind of went right about the time they were going to open. And there was a line. There were people waiting outside the store and they hadn't let anybody else in besides staff. And there were staff members waiting outside. And, we were surprised to see that. We knew it would probably be busier on the weekend, but we didn't think there would be a line.
Right. Clearly there's still this huge gamer demand, right? I think this element of is there like lacking popularity of gaming this year? Are people fading in the battle? Like, is this gaming experience fading? From what we saw at the Nintendo store, I think the answer is no, right? There still is high demand, at least in certain groups of demographics. So.
In Nintendo world.
Oh, and for Nintendo specifically, right? Yeah, they've captivated this audience, right?
Yeah, so we got in line, and it was really interesting because there were some characters outside who were unrelated to the store who were like dancing and singing, raising money for a nonprofit. And it was so interesting because even though they didn't work for Nintendo or in the Nintendo store, their energy was pure Nintendo.
Right. The other energy we saw, though, was this happened to be during some type of SantaCon event.
You're just calling it SantaCon.
Well, I don't know what it actually is called, right? But it was some type of literally that whole day, no matter where we went, people were dressed up as Santa Claus.
Yes, in the entire city.
Like when we say everywhere in the city, we really do mean we could not see a block where there wasn't a Santa Claus.
Yep, and they were everywhere. They were on the bus, they were on the train, they were in the bars, they were in the restaurants, they were in the middle of the street, in the parks.
And they were in the Nintendo store.
And they were in the Nintendo store.
So I think that just, we were talking about this whole like atmosphere that was created both because of the Nintendo store, but also just external to the Nintendo store.
Yep.
One other thing I want to say about when we were waiting in line, there was a security guard, right, letting people in. He himself also was wearing Nintendo swag.
He was a Nintendo fan.
He was. He had a keychain of, I think it was a Mario keychain hooked to his sneaker. And I thought that just like is, the type of the cast members, they really do.
Well, they weren't cast members, but they might as well have been.
Yeah.
But he was definitely a character because he had this, I believe it was a yellow. I can't remember who the character is. Maybe it was Cat Mario, because Cat Mario is yellow, right?
I think it was Cat Mario.
Yeah, that's who was pinned to his shoes. And he also had like a very interesting grill situation going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. But yeah, so the employees for the store who were organizing it were really friendly. The whole environment around outside the store was like really Christmassy and friendly and energetic and positive.
They had these special winter wall window decals, right? Of I think they were Mario and friends as snowmen.
Yeah.
Right. So I thought that was like a cute like. Not only did we go to the Nintendo store, we went in the special holiday season. Yeah. So there were these extra touches to the store.
Yep. So we got to the front of the line and they kind of tried to explain how everything was going to go. And, we were worried that maybe we wouldn't get an ornament or, since there were 4, which I wasn't really thinking about, but Shawn was more so thinking about it. How are we going to get multiple ornaments or could we or whatever? And so they were really nice in explaining everything to us and saying like, take your time, you won't have to worry. And they really wanted to stress that this should be a positive experience.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely they were able to. I mean, one of the cast members that said that this wasn't even an out of normal rush. This is the rush that they are experienced with, and you can tell that the experience shows, right, of how to take what could be a very frantic and busy or overwhelming experience and turning it into something that everyone feels calm and appreciated and respected.
Yeah, so we got in the store and we had been in there a couple of times, but we were still kind of awestruck by all the stuff, kind of gobsmacked by all the stuff, plus the people.
Right.
And so we kind of wandered around, looked at some of the things. They had Donkey Kong and Princess Peach as the first 2 stations of merchandise. And I thought that was really interesting because, one, we just a couple of months ago got that statement from Nintendo that said that Mario and Peach are just friends. So it was interesting that they had Mario off to the side. He had like a statue. Yeah. But he was off to the side, kind of in front of one of the main windows to the store. But he wasn't like the other half or the complement to Princess Peach. And then obviously they had Donkey Kong, who was their big game this year, and also got us set up for potentially a future movie. Right. So I thought that was really interesting that we come in and we saw those 2 kind of pushed to the forefront.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Maybe there's this meta of side characters coming to prominence, right? We've seen, outside of Nintendo, we've seen this whole like Santa Claus versus Grinch. Now Grinch is kind of turned into a very popular piece of media.
Yeah.
Maybe the same thing is happening here where Mario, yes, is the face of Nintendo, but we are now seeing Donkey Kong, we're seeing Peach. These are maybe previously side characters now coming to the forefront as people's favorite characters of the series.
For sure. And I think one of the interesting things about it, too, is behind that they had like some Baby Mario stuff, which was really interesting because it was like household items, like tablecloths and like not cookware, but like dining stuff, platters. And it was all like kind of like baby cutesy Mario rather than like regular Mario. And then there was like some Bowser stuff and Luigi stuff on the other side. But what surprised me the most about the top floor, because there's 2 floors, is the other thing they felt was an absolute necessity to feature, as you come in. It's on the first floor, so you're going to see that first, was the Animal Crossing.
Right. That was surprising to see as well, right, of not only what they had available for Animal Crossing, but also the huge demand, right?
Yeah.
I would say definitely the Animal Crossing section was always the most popular section we saw. Always there was someone buying, looking at something, excited to see something, pointing something out, right?
Or grabbing something. And stuff was going out of stock.
Mm-hmm. Thanks to you.
Well, I did grab a couple of things, but it honestly was so busy in that section of the store that because the store isn't really big, and it has 2 floors, so I think, they were being conservative on the footprint where it is. It opens up to a park. So they kind of, were boxed in with how big the store could be. Yeah. But I think that, you could barely move past that section of the store.
Yeah.
Like there were so many people over there trying to get stuff.
And this stuff was usable, right? I think that you kind of touched upon this about all the stuff that was in the store was unique. Most of it was unique to the store, right?
Yeah.
All of it was kind of branded with Nintendo characters, right? But more importantly, a lot of it was stuff that you would just use in your everyday life.
Yeah, so in the Animal Crossing section, they had like some clothing items, some slippers. They had like wallets and stuff. And even in the Mario, Luigi, kind of more general Mario section that was in front of that, more towards the front of the store, you found some stuff that was like desk and closet related.
Yeah, basically, so each section had something for every room of the house, right? Kitchen, bedroom, office, living room, right? You could basically create your whole house filled with Nintendo branded goods.
Yeah, it was really surprising and interesting, pleasantly to see that.
Right, and the other thing is that, except for this Animal Crossing thing where you happened to buy the last slippers for me, so I thank you for that. It seemed like they were on top of keeping everything in stock, right?
The staff were no joke. Mm-hmm. They were moving around the store, stocking constantly watching, seeing, what was the popular item and bringing more stuff out.
Yeah, you talked to one of the cast members or the attendants, right? And they had,
stop calling them cast.
What do you call it? I mean, they're yes, employees, right? But whatever, the employee, right? And
the anointed Nintendo representatives of America,
comma San Francisco. That basically her role at that point in time was to scour the shelves and see what was missing and to have someone bring up more of items that are low in stock.
Yeah, and that particular person, we didn't get their name. They were helping us that day, and we kind of asked them some questions. But then I looked back at some of the video from the previous days I had been there, and they actually had helped me on those previous days too.
Yeah, I mean, that was interesting just because, yes, we were there a couple of days, right? And we saw a lot of the same employees.
Yeah.
And I think they also recognized us, right? So we had this continuity in conversation of like, hey, you welcome back, or like they were able to continue the conversation. It made us feel like it was almost like another home, right? A Nintendo home, so to speak.
Yeah. I think, just an aside about that, one of the times I went by myself, there was an employee who I had a whole conversation with about Nintendo and Japan and gaming. And these people who work in the store are not just people that they brought in who just care about working in merchandising or working in retail. These people love Nintendo and they know Nintendo, they know gaming. So it's really interesting, to see how those people worked in that environment, how pleasant they were, how dedicated they were to their job, but also how they knew all the minute things about like games or how they were excited about that type of stuff, or even Japan. But yeah, so Animal Crossing was overrun and they were restocking. And then like on the other side of the store from that was the retail side, which that was surprising to me. You said you kind of expected that, and you also went over there for a special reason. So what was that?
Yeah, that electronics section basically had everything that you might find physical goods around the country, right? They had games. They even had consoles, right? And one thing that I found important was this Alarmo clock, right? Something that has been on.
I've been wanting
it for a while. It's beautifully in its box in the bedroom.
Yeah.
But I think that was a unexpected moment for me of like basically anything that you might find out of stock elsewhere, they had in stock here. Right.
Yeah.
So they had so much supply of all the games, all the types of, they had digital goods as well. Right. And they had tons and tons of Alarmos. Right.
And other physical stuff like that's usually out of stock other places, like the Nintendo 64 controller, the GameCube controller, like all those peripherals too were in stock in store, where usually like we go to our local places, they're gone as soon as they're in stock.
Right. And I think that's just this idea of like you could come to the Nintendo store and you truly get the Nintendo experience, right? You're not going to leave the store disappointed because they have generally everything you possibly want, right? We even saw that one person right in front of us checking out, they were buying a Nintendo 2 system, right? At the store.
A Switch 2.
Oh, yeah.
Nintendo 2.
No, I'm sounding old now. But I'm like, yeah, you totally could just come here for your Nintendo needs, not as yes, it's an experience, but you could also come here to just buy your weekly, your new game of the month or something.
Yeah, I think that was the most surprising thing to me about the store, at least, on the first floor, is that they had all this stuff set up for you to view the games like side by side so you could see like all the games, and they even had Switch 1 games out still. So it was like you could see all the Switch 1 games, you could see all the Switch 2 games, and they had screens, and they had all the special editions of the Switch 1 controllers, the color configurations, like the character ones, like the the Diddy Kong ones and the Wario ones, the purple and orange. They had all of that stuff on display, and that was so cool because if you haven't had an opportunity to get your eyes on those things in person, it was cool to see. But also, if you couldn't get them online or if you couldn't get them at your local place, then you could go there. And a lot of people were coming in store, going to that section and being like, well, we're getting this game, or I'm getting a Switch 2, or we're going to get these controllers or whatever. A lot of people actually were making purchases, coming in to see the stuff in person, right, and making purchases. And that was so cool yet strange to me, because right beside that, those people who are actually trying to buy games and buy systems and et cetera, is like people ravishing the Animal Crossing section. And the interesting thing about that is the people who were in the Animal Crossing section didn't necessarily seem like they were the people who would be playing games. Right. It seemed like those people were, maybe they had played Animal Crossing, because who didn't play Animal Crossing New Horizons, over the pandemic. But, it seemed like those are more so people who just loved how it looked, or loved the characters, or knew something about the characters, and they just wanted to get that stuff. They just wanted to get their slippers, they had bomber jackets. They wanted to remember the Tom Nook bomber jacket. They had all this stuff, clothing items that people really were interested in. And, right on the other side of them are people like, well, am I getting Metroid or am I getting Kirby Air Rider?
I mean, that just shows you how Nintendo really is able to cater to all audiences, right? Both the hardcore gamers and then also the people who maybe are just dipping their toes into gaming.
And the Alarmo enthusiasts like you.
Mm-hmm. Now always wake up on time.
Yeah, it's still in the box. So we got in a line, and then you picked up your Alarmo, and we went through the line. And what happened when you got to the front?
I got my ornament.
Yay.
I think it's a super cute thing. I got my Yoshi ornament was what I got with my Alarmo system. I think even just the buying process itself was very welcoming, right? They're talking about, your excitement for the holidays, kind of, are you a Switch owner? Do you have a Switch 2? What's your favorite game? Things like that, right?
Yep.
This type of conversation that makes it feel like a welcoming experience. And they had so many ornaments. So, I'm glad that they had enough for, people that it wasn't going to be something that was only the first 30 or something like that, right? They really made sure that people who wanted the ornament would be able to get the ornament.
Yeah, I was happy that we didn't have to fight with anybody to get the ornament. But so after we got the ornament, we could kind of relax and take more time. And so we decided to, one thing we didn't talk about is from the first floor on that side where you get in a line to check out, you can look down and there's a big screen that people are kind of playing on downstairs.
Yeah.
So we looked at that for a second and we were like, okay, let's go downstairs.
Right. I mean, and we haven't really even said this explicitly, right? But even just the fact that there was a second floor, I think surprised both of us.
Yep.
Neither of us was expecting there to be a second floor. And I think just even the first floor itself could be a store in itself, right?
Yep.
And then you kind of go towards the middle of the store, and then you realize, oh, wait, there's a whole second section on the second floor below you through this grand staircase, right? And right there's this kind of overlooking balcony, so you can kind of get a little bit of a tease of what's on the bottom floor, right? And one of the main parts of that is this playable exhibit, right, of Mario Kart, adding to this whole,
well, I think it was more than just Mario Kart, but you take us through. So we start walking down the stairs. The stairs are actually very nice, and they're reminiscent of the Apple store that used to be in downtown Chicago with a glass staircase. Right. Yeah, so it was a really nice kind of premium experience. You step down and take us through what you see.
I mean, premium and welcoming, I think, is the big, right? Is that really creating this experience where you are part of the experience, right? So you go down to the second floor, right? And you really are met with more of this wondrous joy, right? Of everyone is excited to see these different types of, there was Splatoon, there was Zelda, there were all these different exhibits. You see
Pikmin,
yes.
Metroid,
Pokemon. So basically you think you've seen it all on the first floor, and then you go to the second floor and it's just as big, if not bigger, right? With their selection and their different characters, and then also this playable section where they have the switches out for people who maybe are excited to play or haven't had a chance to play Mario Kart, right? On this huge, 100-inch or larger projector screen, right? So it's almost lifelike playing Mario Kart on this huge screen, and you see people there. I think every time we went there was always someone playing, right? It was always on in the background. It adds a sense of buzz to the floor.
Yeah.
Right. Also, what was there was this
holiday
ornament display, right? So again, adding to the festivities, right? I think I'm really excited that we got to go in winter season, right? Because I think all these little touches, right, really is that Nintendo polish, right? Yeah. Showing the care they put into how they display things, and how they never do anything half measure, right?
Yep. And going from the holiday display, they had even on the second floor some special holiday stuff. We went over to the Pokemon section, which the Pokemon section is one of the few sections where it's actually not solely exclusive merchandise. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of go to the Pokemon section and maybe see some items that you could buy in other places that have licensed or are partners. But there were some items that were not available to be bought in other places, and they were holiday related. Can you tell us about them?
Yeah, they had these kind of gingerbread-esque holiday villages of Pokemon. Very affordable as well, right? I think that was the shock as well, right? Something that would easily be hundreds of dollars somewhere else. They had it at a very approachable cost, right? But I think what drew me in was just how the cuteness factor, right? Everything was very holiday oriented. They had this Pokemon and these Pokemon shops, right? Like a Pokemon coffee shop, a Pokemon village, all these types of things that really create this Pokemon town during the holiday sunny season. You could buy one of each if you desire to do so. I thought that was very cute to see. They had them on display, right? So it really was like a wow factor, right? That adding to that whole Pokemon section.
Yeah, and I think that also became like one of the hot spots of the second floor. Right next to the Pokemon section was Pikmin. And I think that while Pikmin is like an older franchise that has like maybe a more grassroots following, no pun intended, but a following that is, you know, not obviously as large as Pokemon and as keeping up with the games as Pokemon. I mean, the games have been spread far apart. But the Pikmin was right next to the Pokemon. And I think that because of how they look, people were kind of drawn to the cuteness of the Pikmin, and they kind of look like Pokemon. And obviously some people know, but I saw some like young kids like gravitate towards the Pikmin and be like, Pikmin. And then they would see the Pokemon. And then it's just like everybody gravitated towards the corner.
Yeah.
And so many people were fascinated with the holiday exhibit, little things, boxes.
Right.
And they also had like some little holiday cookies that were decorated, but we don't know why they were cookies and decorated, if they were just displays to show a cookie jar, or were they actually...
Right, I'm wondering if like one of the employees, you know, brought some cookies in from home and they decorated them or something like that.
I would totally believe that.
But you kind of touched upon this with Pikmin, was this whole idea of like, what was put on display was not just their main characters or their main IPs, right? Every section had, or every character seemed to have its own little section, right? I think especially Splatoon, right? I was surprised to see such a big section. Never in any other store have I seen such amount of Splatoon merchandise, right? They had Zelda. They even had some Metroid.
And they had a little section for Korok only, where it wasn't just Zelda, but it was the Korok seeds had their own little section. And also there was a little section across from Metroid. It's so funny, like how this was thought out and how it was themed, because like I said, like the Pikmin kind of looks like Pokemon and they start with the same letter and they lead into the Pokemon section. And then you have Metroid right next to a small section of Kirby. And you know, Kirby is a universal eldritch monster baby, and he leads into Metroid, which is a universal hero / monster DNA having heroine. It was like so interesting to see how they like kind of tried to form a narrative, even though it wasn't a huge space, and even though they didn't have like movies playing or anything, it was like the whole store kind of had a little story.
Yeah, it takes you on a journey, right?
Yeah.
I think even though the space is clearly, the space was intentionally built, right, of where everything goes and where they expect people to, where they would expect the pedestrian flow to go, right? And naturally you kind of go through Nintendo's journey, right, of all their characters, and you go on the journey with them, right? I thought it was definitely the second floor, I think, was my biggest surprise, right? Because you would never expect a company like that to dedicate such amount of space to not their primary IPs, right? So I think that felt like a very like welcoming experience to everyone who loves Nintendo, no matter what your favorite game is or what your favorite characters are.
So I'm going to pick at that. You're saying that Pokemon in Zelda and are not primary?
Well, I mean, compared to Mario and Animal Crossing, maybe, right?
I get it, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like I'm thinking of like Metroid and Kirby and Splatoon. To give them their own sections, I think was very surprising for me to see, right? The other thing I wanted to mention about the second floor, I think it was the bottom floor, right, was this huge amiibo section, amiibo wall. Right, I've never seen so many amiibos, right? Just the same thing as we saw with the games and all the controllers and merchandise there, right? This really feels like the definitive section for here's everything Nintendo can offer, right? A wall of what must have been 200 amiibos, right? For your choosing or for your viewing pleasure, right?
And they even had Lego sets. They had Nintendo-themed Lego sets there.
That's why I think what my big takeaway from the store is like is basically anything that you would want to get from Nintendo, you could get at the store, right? Yeah. And make it a very pleasurable buying experience, or even just an experience to be there, right? Even if you're not choosing to buy anything.
Yep, a pleasant experience, though at that point, an increasingly crowded one. So crowded, in fact, that they opened the bottom registers that we didn't even know existed. And we obviously had more stuff, so we got in the bottom line, and we confirmed with them before, like, do you all have ornaments down here? And they were like, yes, we have ornaments. Don't worry. So we get in the line, and it was so interesting because while we were waiting in that line, we saw a guy buy like tons of stuffed animals from like Splatoon and Pokemon, etc. And then at the very end, actually, it's the reverse. So he was buying a Nintendo Switch 2, and we were like, oh, okay. He's picking up a Switch 2, and the person on the register was like, oh, and when you get home, you'll have an amazing time. You'll open it up and like enjoy. And then he like finished paying for everything. And when after she handed him the bag with the Nintendo Switch, she bent down and she picked up 2 or 3 huge bags filled with stuffed animals. And me and the guy who was standing in front of me in line just burst into laughter because it looked like, though, from the way that she like turned around, that she was just going to pick up a little bitty bag. Yeah. But she picked up these bags literally filled with stuffed animals. It was so funny. But also in the line, we encountered something that was so interesting. Do you remember what it was?
The Sony guy?
Yes.
Yeah, that was interesting too, right? Amongst all this Nintendo merchandise and excitement and people who are clear Nintendo fans, was this one person who happened to be wearing this Sony decked out hoodie, right? And I think he was maybe wearing it tongue in cheek. You had some conversation with him, and he seemed very kind and joy filled, right? So I think he was excited to be here as well.
Yeah, he was a true games lover. I kind of commented like, oh, you're wearing a PlayStation in the Nintendo store? And he was like, well, yeah, you got to represent. But also he was buying stuff. So, I mean, I think he was just a true games lover. And, that's just part of his normal wardrobe. And it just happened to match up that day. Yeah. But no, yeah. So we went through that line and we got more ornaments. Mm-hmm. And at that point, we had probably spent an hour and a half, if not more, in the store. Yeah.
I mean, that's why it's like you could really spend a large amount of time there and just taking it all in, right? Yep. I think that's kind of what we appreciate of the experience, was that at least this was our first or a couple times coming there, right? It really is a wondrous experience. Like we use the term like kid in a candy store type of thing, right? Where there's just so much everywhere around you to see and to feel and to like feel emotionally, right? I think that was a very unique experience that can only happen, once in every so often, right? And this is one of those experiences.
One of the most interesting, yet small but interesting parts of the experience too, that we did notice, was the music, because when we were on the first floor, the entire time they played, what is it? Jump Up Superstar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From Super Mario Odyssey was like on loop, like some special version of it where it was, I mean, honestly, they probably were using the Nintendo Music app.
I was going to say, right? Somebody's got to be paying for the monthly membership or something.
But yeah, it was like on some type of special loop where it was like almost impossible to discern where it was looping back around. Like it just kept going and kept going. But like it was perfectly in a way that it wasn't like annoying. It was more like hypnotizing. Yeah. But yeah, I think that, for anybody thinking about going to the store, do it. It was a great experience. It's very convenient, like its location centralized. You don't have to walk up any huge hills, which we had plenty of experiences.
Unless you start at the top of the hill.
Well, yeah, unless you start at the top. But you don't have to walk up any big hills. It's at a central location, and you'll have a blast. There's so much to see there. Prep your wallet, baby. Yeah. Okay.
But even if you're not interested in buying anything, right, I would still say that this was a wonderful experience just to be there, right? Be part of the experience, to see this like kind of unabashed joy from both other customers, but also the employees themselves, right? This type of experience that maybe you don't see that often anymore.
Yeah, and I think that, just as a final shout out to the staff, they did such an amazing job. We met probably all of the staff there, because we we went from, basically, if you count the both of us, we went every day of the week.
Yeah, we went weekdays, weekend, morning, night, afternoon. So basically, we got every shift covered.
And the staff were amazing, so pleasant, so intentional in their work, such big fans of Nintendo, and so knowledgeable about gaming and everything. And they really made the experience. And I will say one of the most surprising things to me is that when even before we got in the store, like you said, with the security person, you go into this store and it looks like our nation. Everybody was up in there. Yeah. Everybody was represented in there. And it really kind of made it feel like that special experience where it's like, I feel completely safe. I feel completely like, I don't want to say seen, but I feel seen in my gamer nerdiness. I feel seen, in every way that I am, every proclivity that I have. Even if you're a businessman, I bought a pen that clearly is supposed to be put in the pocket on a suit jacket. And it's a little Pikmin pen. And so it's like, and they were selling ties there.
Yeah.
They were selling bow ties and ties that were Zelda themed. And I think there was also a Zelda suit jacket and an Animal Crossing suit jacket. So, I think that they did a great job with the staff and making it really feel like a space where any family from any part of the country can come there and have a good time.
I agree. Right. And I think definitely next time we're in a city that has a Nintendo store, we're definitely going to stop by.
Well, there's only one other city that has a Nintendo store, so.
No, I think there's.
We're going to have to go to New York.